effort is underway to get voters to undo the historic state abortion restrictions passed by lawmakers in the last two sessions. A petition drive to get that question on the ballot and to voters in November is supported by a number of groups and a political action committee for which Moné Holder is the chair. Moné, great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So how did you and other groups, and you can outline the groups who are involved so everybody knows, but how did you decide to do this petition process rather than another avenue?
Sure. So, we've watched closely what's been happening across the country, but specifically in the Florida legislature as it relates to the attacks on abortion access, and coming out of this 2023 legislative session in which, a bill was passed that will limit a 6-week abortion ban. Essentially, Floridians Protecting Freedom came together as a statewide campaign to amend Florida's constitution to protect Floridians' rights and the ability to make their personal medical decisions without government influence.
So amending the petition, the petition process for amending the state constitution is a very difficult process and should be, by all accounts, to amend a state constitution. So what you have to do is to collect enough petitions, which is almost 900,000, to get on the ballot by February 1st. Did I get the date right?
Yes, that is correct.
That's a pretty high hurdle. How are you going to do that?
It is. So Floridians Protecting Freedom, let me just say, it is a broad coalition of community organizations, healthcare providers, advocacy groups, faith leaders, and grassroots organizations who support this. And we all have networks within and outside of Florida. Some of the groups include Florida Rising, Women's Voices of Southwest Florida, ACLU, and Planned Parenthood. So not only will we have support on the ground, grassroots support, volunteer petition collections, but we will take other means and methods to gather these 900,000 petitions by February 1st.
Okay, I am not a math girl, but you've got 6 months to collect 1 million signatures. Someone way better at math in their head than I are going to come up with, several thousand a day petition signers. Is that, I'm going to ask you that again, is that even possible?
It is. I think, unfortunately, but fortunately, we have the expertise to get this done, because we often have to take our concerns and the will of the people to the ballot. We've had successes in other ballot initiatives that coalitions such like ours have been a part of. So although it is a challenge, it definitely can be done. And what is most hopeful about this is that we have the support of the people. We know that people do not want government interference in their personal decisions, their medical decisions, and want to see themselves and their families have access to abortion rights. So we know that not only a grassroots campaign, but a very intense petition collection campaign kicking off will be successful by February 1.
So when you say you have the support of the people, I'm guessing you're pointing to some public opinion polls that do show a high level, a majority support for choice, medical choice, to a certain extent in abortion rights in Florida. And yet you have a legislature that for 2 years, lawmakers who were elected by the people of Florida for 2 years have made it more restrictive and more restrictive. So give me your perspective on how those two things can exist together.
Yes, so you're correct. In multiple polls that have been done across the state, Floridians overwhelmingly support abortion access and oppose abortion bans like the ones currently in state law. The most recent polling shows that 64% of Floridians say that abortion should be legal in most or all circumstances. These are the same Floridians who advocated for their right to abortion access throughout the legislative process. And unfortunately, their concerns have not been heard. So, that energy, that synergy, that will of the people all across the state is something that we hope translates, or that we know will translate into an affirmative vote for this petition, for this ballot amendment in 2024.
Am I remembering correctly, was there such a petition effort last year after the first round of restrictions were passed?
Not an effort that Floridians Protecting Freedom letter that I personally was involved
But
in.
there was another petition process. Do you know what happened to that?
No, I can't speak on the status of that.
Understood. Okay, so do you have ballot language yet? And if so, can you share it with us?
I do. So the ballot language is pretty simple. We wanted it to be clear and concise because our amendment will focus on limiting government interference with abortion before viability as determined by a patient's healthcare provider. And the amendment will not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. The amendment would protect Floridians' freedom to access abortion and healthcare providers' ability to offer the care that they need. The petitions are up for folks who want to review the exact language, see a petition. They're encouraged to go to FloridiansProtectingFreedom.com, and there you will find the exact language and the petitions and ways to support this campaign.
So what is going to be proposed for the Constitution is a choice of pregnancy termination up until viability, which 24 weeks is typically the week of viability in a legal sense where those legalities are in place. Is that right?
So viability has been consistently defined as the point in pregnancy when the fetus can survive outside the womb. It's determined by healthcare providers based on the patient's individualized circumstances and considering the specific facts of the case before them.
And that used to be, prior to 2 lawmaking sessions ago, that actually was Florida law.
And we've seen, and we've seen different iterations of it. So today, abortion is banned after 15 weeks of pregnancy in Florida. If the Florida Supreme Court upholds that ban that is currently in legal challenge, then the 2023 law passed by the legislature and signed by the governor that bans abortion after 6 weeks will take effect, which we know severely restricts abortion access even further. And that's not the will of the people here in Florida.
And that ballot language, which has to be 75 words, which is why it needs to be very concise and short and clear, also has to be approved by the Florida Supreme Court. And the justices on the Florida Supreme Court, a majority of which have been appointed by this very conservative governor, do you expect issues with that?
I think we're hopeful that the will of the people will be upheld even at the Supreme Court level. We've put in a great deal of work to craft language that we feel is would be acceptable to the Supreme Court and definitely restores the access that we have lost here in Florida. So we will see post February 1 when the petitions are, when the language is reviewed by the Supreme Court where they stand on it.
Moné Holder, it is great to have you on the program, and please do keep in touch with us on your progress.
I sure will. Thank you so much for having me.